Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan, Inside the Birds, presented, of course, by our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. It is the exclusive Jersey Shore resort of Inside the Birds. And let's talk exclusivity,
Yeah.
Caplan, because the Super Bowl is over. The Chiefs win again. First back-to-back champion since the Patriots in 03-04. That's almost 20 years. And I think we could both agree it was a very wonky game, not necessarily filled with exciting, splashy plays. So I'll just say this, masterclass in overtime of Andy Reid and
Hmm.
Patrick Mahomes working the clock, knowing exactly what they needed to do to move the ball, doing everything. And, you feel for the 49ers. They gave it their all, but the masterclassmen were at their work, and that's the case.
Yeah, the Niners have to be reeling. I mean, first of all, they're up, 10-0. They're moving the football. I know Kyle Shanahan wants to be balanced, and that's fine, but it didn't work. You keep throwing. Boy, Purdy got off to a great start.
Yeah.
They just couldn't score. I mean, they moved the football, they threw it well, and then he had to mix the run in. They actually, I give the Chiefs credit. They did a great job of McCaffrey in terms of the run game. Really controlled him. When Purdy dropped back in the first half, he had a lot of success. But the turnovers, the muff punt, can't have that. Mistakes. This is the game where they have to look back and say, "Boy, we really dominated, but they lost it." I do feel for the Niners, no question about it. But give Reid credit. Although the one thing was interesting when you really look at it, they score 3 seconds left. I know you say masterclass, but just think if he gets sacked there. I couldn't believe they didn't even call a timeout. It's not like this is the regulation in the fourth quarter. Remember, whoever, if they score a touchdown, they win. It's not
Right.
about that. It's not about letting them get the ball back. That was very risky. That was not the smartest thing by Hendy.
Yeah,
I
I
was
thought
going.
they had him on their toes, though, Adam. I
They
think
did,
that
but
they had like
man,
five good plays in a row, which is
yeah,
about more than they had all game,
yeah, yeah.
consecutively at
I
least.
hear you, but think of it: if he gets sacked, they fumble, ooh, or anything, just a miscue. Gotta be
Hmm.
careful there. But okay, hey, they scored. Mecole Hardman of all people did score there.
Yeah.
They found a way to win, so good for them. 20, it's been 20 years since we had back-to-back champs, but they did it. Didn't look good. They got kind of outplayed for 2.5 quarters, but they came in on the second half, found ways to win. In fact, they when they went up, they scored 13 straight to take the lead. I'm like, uh-oh, let's see what Purdy does. They hung in there. They went up getting that touchdown to retake the lead. I thought that was good for them, but just in the end, missed opportunities. And by the way, not only did the Chiefs cover, the game went under the total by a half a point, which I called
Yeah.
both. I had a 24-20. Yeah, see, here's the thing, because it's overtime, they don't get to kick the extra point.
I
Sorry,
had
folks, it was the
twenty-seven
over.
23, so I feel like I was only 1 point off on San Fran and two on Kansas City myself. But of course, this is with an extra an extra whole layer
Yeah.
of football to play. A lot of individual good players, Trent McDuffie, who could have been an Eagle if they didn't trade up for Jordan Davis, had an incredible game outside of that one penalty, the holding late. Chris Jones, who is we'll talk about him later in this podcast, but he came up big for the for the Chiefs. But I think you got to look at this. You have to look at the immortality now of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid now wins his third Super Bowl, so only Bill Belichick and only Chuck Noll have more. So he is tied with Joe Gibbs and Bill Walsh, and I have a feeling he's going to have maybe a few more before he's said and done. And the same thing with Patrick Mahomes, young kid, not even, I think he's 26 years old. He wins his third Super Bowl. So the only ones who've won more we know are Brady, Bradshaw, and Joe Montana. I mean, to be in that elite of company that young. And man, like this was supposed to be the year. The Bills couldn't do it. The Dolphins couldn't do it. The Ravens couldn't do it. I'm sure everybody in the NFL and the NFC is wondering right now, like, when are we going to beat this team? This could have been the year, but amazing job by the Chiefs again.
Yeah, you're off of Mahomes' age. You're way off. He turns
Oh, how old
29
is he?
in September. Yeah,
My bad.
yeah. But no, you're right with Andy. This is special. This is his third Super Bowl, fourth appearance, of course. Been in the Super Bowl with two different teams. Won them all, obviously, with the Chiefs. Now and now I'm interested to see because Clark Hunt, the owner, is pretty steadfast that he doesn't think Andy's retiring. He would know, I would think, whether Andy's going to continue to coach here. So And Andy really doesn't get involved with personnel much anymore. It's Brett Veach's show we
Right.
brought over from Philly, who we dealt with here in Philly, and Brett does a great job. And here we go. Look, you got the quarterback, you got the head coach. If you're a Chiefs fan, watching this, and that was quite the comeback. I give him credit. It could have gone either way. The kickers were, by the way, kickers were great, other than the blocked extra point. Boy, that kid Jake Moody, the rookie, did a phenomenal job. Um, the butt kicker Harrison Bucker did a phenomenal job.
Oh, clutch kicker
He
right
was
there. Yeah.
great. Yeah, he was great. So I look. It's a shame someone had to lose the game. It was an awful first half. It was disgusting, quite frankly. And by the way, the Niners spent a third round pick on Jake Moody from Michigan. Wow, that's too high.
Mm.
But man, he came through in a big way. Give the rookie kicker credit. He did a great
Yeah,
job.
the block kick though is what's going to wind up biting them in the end because that allowed the Chiefs to then tie the game on a field goal. I mean, they're
Yeah,
going to go
true.
back and look at all that and say, "Oh, of all things." But I got to say the Chiefs do a very good job and they have all year. I think they led the NFL in this is mostly on a defensive thing, but it's still in passes batted at the line of scrimmage. So not surprisingly, they would get their hands on a ball on a field goal in the most, critical time that they needed it there or a field goal block. Just incredible. I think Andy has done a lot for his image. I know a lot of Philadelphians still look at him as the guy that couldn't get it done, but
Yeah,
there's a ton of guys out there who it just took them a while to get that first Super Bowl, whether a coach or a player. But he's a masterclass now. What is he? He's now 3-2, I think, in Super Bowls. Right? He lost one as an Eagle, and he lost to the Tampa Bay team a
yep.
couple of years ago because
Yep.
his whole offensive line was decimated. But we'll finish this off. I really appreciate what Patrick Mahomes has become, Adam. If you remember early in his career, he made the crazy sideways throws, the swashbuckling throws, the no look passes, and that's what really set him apart. And even in that, you remember that loss to Tampa in the Super Bowl with four backup linemen starting, and he was getting killed and he was on the right. He was throwing
Yeah.
passes while he was perpendicular to the ground. And now he has really learned. I mean, there's not a defense he hasn't seen. There's not a blitz he doesn't know. He has sort of reached that terrain now where he doesn't have to make the crazy no look sidearm over the shoulder type throws. He just makes the right throw at the right time and the right run, as we saw in overtime, especially at the right time. And it's really special to see. I mean, right after Brady comes Patrick Mahomes. Like you don't even have to wait that long for a guy who just is so much better than everybody else to appreciate.
The only thing about him breaking Brady has 7 rings, 6 with New England, 1 with Tampa. I can't imagine Andy's going to be there for like the next 3 rings if they get them. We'll see. I know there are some people think it'll be Matt Nagy, who will be his replacement in terms of in-house, but whoever that may be to replace Andy when he retires, that to me is the key here. By the way, the other thing is about Mahomes' brilliance. Somehow he led them in rushing in this game, and the back-breaking scramble just crushed them in
Definitely.
overtime, late in overtime, and also the fourth and half a yard where they went they gave it to him on the sneak. And it was interesting because he was in shotgun. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. What are they going to do here? Sprint right option. What are they going to do here? No, he sprinted to his right, but he ran it,
Yeah.
and that was
That's
pretty
the
sweet.
that's
Pretty
the Eagles play with Goddard coming across the line of scrimmage, and
yeah,
Jalen either tosses it to him if somebody comes up on him, or just follows right behind and runs it. We've seen
he
that
did. Yeah,
a million times with the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, we're going to talk a lot in this podcast about the Eagles. We're going to get into some contract situations that are up. Last thing though,
sure.
I just mentioned like Andy had to lose one and then go to Kansas City. I mean, I feel like Kyle Shanahan will
Ooh,
eventually get one, but you talk about a guy who just it feels snake bit right now. I mean, he's been in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs twice and had the lead at halftime, I think, in both. He had the lead in halftime in this last one, right? Weren't they up or was it
I'll
tied?
look. I'll don't keep
Yeah, it
talking.
was
I'll
10-3. It
I'll
was
check.
10-3. It
Okay,
was
cool.
10-3. So he's had the lead at halftime, but he's either running into Tom Brady, right, as an offensive coordinator as the Falcons when they're up 28-3, or he's running into Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this guy must feel like no lead. He must get haunted by having a lead in a big game in his sleep. Feel bad for him in that
They were
regard.
actually tied at halftime in that first game. It was 10-all, and
Oh,
then
in the first game. Okay.
yeah, in the first match Super Bowl, and then the Niners took the lead 20-10, and then they choked it. Fact,
Right.
the Chiefs wound up scoring the next 21 points. Ooh, that's a tough one, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a toughie.
Well, think about that. Every Chiefs Super Bowl with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes has been a comeback Super Bowl. They've been behind in every single Super Bowl. They were down to the Eagles. They were
Mhm.
down in that first one, 20-10, and they were down in this last one. Not sizably, but they were down.
And by the way, they need help on the offensive line. Donovan Smith got taken to the cleaners a little bit there. Chase Young got him. He's number 79. He's on a 1 year deal anyway. And Juwan Taylor's an okay right tackle. Played left tackle early in his career. They're without Joe Tooney, which is obviously huge, but they hung in there. They
Yep.
got the job done. There were so many Jarek McKinnon played. He was did a nice job when they needed him to. Justin Watson for Penn, who could run,
Had a
did
big
a good
catch
job.
in that game.
MVS scored.
Yeah. How about Mecole Hardman, who was a Jet
Yeah.
earlier in the year, comes through. They were waiting for him to have games like that for 4 years.
I know. I know.
Uh,
And Trent McDuffie, you said, who's terrific slot, arguably the NFL's best slot corner. The bottom line is to move on here. They got the job done. Spags again wins another Super Bowl.
yep.
Did it with the Giants, where he's tremendous. Did it here. The Niners are way more talented, but you know what? The talented team doesn't always win. And I give the Chiefs credit for coming back here. And look, overall, this first half was awful.
Yeah. Oh, God,
Uh,
yeah.
as you said to me in text, Z's, I agree with you. I was like, I couldn't take it. It was so boring. And then urgency, man, urgency always seems to take over, man. And it sure as
100%.
heck did with the Chiefs.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to move past this Super Bowl. We'll get into some Eagles. Got a lot of hot topics to discuss surrounding
Ooh.
Philadelphia Eagles. We'll get into that in a second. First, we're going to pause to hear a word from our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
All right, moving away from the Super Bowl and on to the Eagles off season. And it's funny how fast, Adam, the off season can come right up on Eagles and their fans as news tends to break even before the kickoff of a Super Bowl. But while some of the news might be surprising to Eagles fans, for you and I, for the organization, maybe not so much. And I want you to bring up something that we brought up to our Patreon subscribers a couple weeks ago now. I think we had just gotten back from the Senior Bowl, and there was something that you brought up to our Patreon subscribers that drew a whole lot of what kind of look. So why don't you go in and explain what you had said?
Yeah, I said I was pessimistic. This situation is going to end well. I kind of hinted that we could see a permission to seek a trade coming. 2 weeks later, we saw that. Now, to be clear, I didn't say he was going to be traded. I just
And,
felt
and of
pessimistic.
course, we're
Yeah.
talking about Haason Reddick here,
Yes. Son
just in
Reddick. Yeah.
case
Sorry.
anybody's living under a
Yeah.
cave.
Sorry. Yeah. So Son Reddick. So, and we're always objective. Our job is not to take sides here. We're not a fan show. Like we don't start cheering and waving our pom poms for players or clubs. We're here to educate you, tell you what we know. So on that live stream, and by the way, we have a live stream 2 days from now. We'll have some more, not only more on this, but other stuff that we're thinking that could be coming down the pike here on offense or defense. Who knows? But I just, based on what I've been hearing, and then something I heard at the Senior Bowl put it over the top. I was like, wow, could this actually happen? So let's move this forward. I understand from the Eagles standpoint. I know a lot of people are saying, well, they have Nolan Smith. What did Nolan Smith do with his 1.5 sacks? And I understand he had to be a backup. He didn't have a choice. He wasn't starting last year. We all knew that. And they didn't expect to get him where they did. But okay, they drafted him. To think like if they trade Reddick, that Nolan Smith is the answer. I mean, that to me is really forward thinking. Again, do you tell me, based on people you've spoken with who have watched this tape, based on what you know, you had some really good stuff on Nolan Smith. I remember after he's traded, based on our sourcing on why he dropped and some concerns with him. We know he's a good kid, but in terms of physicality. So let me ask you this question: Do you think he's really ready to step in?
Listen, I mean, it's hard to know how much a guy will develop from year 1 to year 2.
Right.
We can sit here and talk about what he needs to develop. He might do that. I don't think the Eagles, though, Adam, are the type of team that just banks on, yes, this guy in year 2 is going to be. They're always looking. Howie's always looking to be deeper. He's always looking to add to positions of strength. So, I also don't. So let me take it to Nolan Smith. He needs to get stronger. There were times during the season where he was easily blocked by tight ends. There were times where he was blocked by bigger physical receivers, even in the run game. I remember pointing out Gabe Davis really driving him back a few yards in that Buffalo game on an outside stretch run to the left side. So he has to get bigger. He has to get stronger. He needs to find a position. If it's edge rusher, and we need to know what Vic Fangio's role and responsibility will be in figuring out what his best position is. We know Vic Fangio doesn't blitz a lot. So he's either going to be an edge rusher who was drafted to bring tremendous speed around the edges, or we know Vic Fangio values athleticism, values linebacker, maybe more so than the Eagles have. We also know that teams told us, and Greg Cosell also felt the same way, that because of his build, he may wind up being a better, if they wanted to devote him to being that way, a better off-ball linebacker. I don't sense that's what the Eagles want to do, but they did play him in that role toward the end of the year. They practiced it in summer camp. We were training camp. We mentioned that. They practiced it a little bit at the end of OTAs. We reported on that. And then they played him in that role out of necessity, I think more so than desire at that point because of the injuries. I don't think you draft a guy with those kind of explosive edge traits to transition, but it happened to us. It's happened before to other players. It reverse happened to Reddick. They drafted him to be a linebacker. He wound up being a better edge rusher. So we'll see. There's a lot of questions, but let's kind of go back to this Reddick thing. He's in the 3rd year. He's supposed to enter a 3rd year of a contract that pays him like $15 million annually, AAV. He certainly has outperformed that because it was a team-friendly deal when he started. And certainly the market has been reset a couple of times since. I know TJ Watt signed for what, 28 to 30? Something really high.
Yeah. So since you brought that up, let me give you the contracts and see. And you want to talk about a contract being outdated. And I understand from a club standpoint, that's not their problem.
Right.
This happens. The laughter of quarterbacks, a guy signs a mega contract, then 2 weeks later, it's outdated. You know how that is. But I mean, just to give you an idea, and I'm not saying that Reddick is as good as these guys. I'm just giving you the numbers. I know the way clubs and agents look at it. Agents will just take numbers. They don't care that the guy's way better than them that they're talking about. From the club standpoint, whoa, oh, wait a minute, this guy's way better than your guy. You know, that's the way they fight. I get it. But just to give you an idea of where the edge rusher market is. So Reddick signed for $15 million a year. And by the way, another reason why Hassan probably wants a new deal, there's no guarantee money left in it. Not that they were going to cut him. Of course they wouldn't cut him. If they were going to do anything, they would trade him. But you don't want that over your head. I know the way players think and agents. You and I've had these discussions dozens over the years with people. But here's the numbers. Khalil Mack and the Bears knew this when they made this trade. That when they got Khalil Mack from the Raiders, they had to sign to a mega deal, and he got an unbelievable deal, historic. This was 6 years ago. $23.5 million a year. Okay, Khalil Mack's probably going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Max Crosby. Now I'm going to go APY, average per year. This is what it's called by agents. It's AAV. It's more baseball. It's the same thing. It's just the terms. So Crosby signed his big deal of $23.5 million. On March 11th, this is when it was executed, 2022, $23.5 million, same as Mac. Montez Sweat. Now, this one, to me, this is where, if I'm Haason Reddick, no offense to Montez Sweat, he had been an underachiever. That's why Washington traded him. And he did well after there, but they signed him quickly. The Bears did to an extension. He signed now the structure's team friendly, but the average per year is very strong. He signed this in November of last year, $24.7 million. Okay. Haason Reddick's a better football player. No
Right.
offense. No, I get it. Sweat's the hand down guy. He doesn't stand up. Myles Garrett signed, like, this is a ridiculous contract. When he signed it, I was just blown away. This is almost it'll be 4 years ago in July 16th, 2020, $25 million a year. Joey Bosa somehow is younger than Haason Reddick.
Is he? Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, I was doing this research.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, how the hell is that even possible? I guess he left school early. His dad, John, by the way, was a first round pick of the Dolphins in '87. Joey signed his mega extension. Great deal. August 2nd of 2020, 27 million a season. TJ Watt, he signed his $28.15 million extension per year, APY, September 10th, 2021 to start that season. And Nick Bosa, okay, he's a great player. He's like a top 3 player in the NFL. He signed it to start last season, $34.2 million a year, and he also held out, but hey, he got what he wanted. So if you're Reddick, you got to be wanting at least, I mean, again, Joey Bosa's deal. I get Bosa might be a better football player, but that's not, you got to look at how dated that contract is. To me, at a minimum, he's getting Montez, he's got to get at least 25 million.
Yeah.
Are you going to tell me that Montez Sweat's better than 10 million a year than Reddick? Hell no.
No. So you laid it out perfectly, because you can play this game at any position, but it's not the same. It's not like when Jalen Hurts signs for 50 million and then Burrow makes 52 and then Herbert makes 54, that Burrow and Hurts are like, oh, wait a minute, we're better and working now, because it's all in the same ballpark, and you just know that that's the deal, that the next guy gets a little more, the next guy gets a little more. This is oranges to those apples. This is Haason Reddick, as good as some of those names you mentioned, making $10 to $15 million a year less than players that he can argue, many of them, that he's better than. So that's why it's different. That's why it's understandable. I don't think, and this is just going to be my personal speculation now based on our years of covering sports, I don't think the Eagles are ignorant to this, and I don't think that they expect Haason Reddick to just be quiet about making $15 million a year when already last year he wanted a new contract. However, when you look at the situation, Adam, I don't know that Haason Reddick has a whole lot of leverage. So he enters the last year of his deal. He's going to be 30 years old in September.
Yep.
There's penalties for holding out. If you are brave enough to hold out the entire year, you're 31 by the time you're a free agent. That's a whole extra year for an edge rusher. I don't know. I feel like Chris Jones tried to walk this path for the Kansas City Chiefs, and
he didn't get it.
It did. Yeah. Financially, it didn't work out for him. He's still in a great situation. But financially, it did not work out for him. Didn't he actually lose money on, or either way, he did not gain money. And I just don't know what Haason Reddick's recourse is if he doesn't get what he wants. But I do feel like when a team gives you permission to seek a trade, it's not all the time, but in this case, the Eagles could be saying, look, let's try to do what works. This is what they did with Darius Slay last offseason. We'll let you seek a trade. We'll see what somebody out there is willing to pay you, turning 30 years old, knowing you're a very good player, but you are not the full complete package. You're not TJ Watt. You're good, but there are some deficiencies to your game. You're light around the edges. You're not the greatest in run defense, but no doubt about it, you're a fastball around the edge, and we love that. Let's see what another team might be willing to give. And if that team is in the, let's say, I guess it's the response. If there's a team out there that's going to make him $27 to $30 million and you're the Eagles, you say, all right, let's make a trade, because we're not going to do that. But if if Reddick and his camp come back and say, well, we got teams that are willing to pay him 24 to 26 over the next 3 years, you're the Eagles, you may consider that fair and say, look, as you mentioned, Adam, we don't have a whole pipeline of guys ready to come up. Not only are we not ready for Nolan Smith to be that guy, but our other great guy, Josh Sweat, he's at the end of a deal, and he didn't have a great year. Like, we need Haason Reddick if we're trying to be competitive, which they are definitely trying to be. So there might be a case like Slay, Adam, here, where once they get the information, there might be a deal that they can be made. I don't know that that's the case, but you do have to remember that there's not a whole lot of leverage for Haason Reddick here. So he and his camp have to know that as well.
Well, the leverage is all going to be, yes, right now he doesn't, but, and I'm sure that knowing the Eagles, they're not going to want this to last very long. I assume this will be fully resolved by the start of free agency on March 13th. Why would you let it go on any longer? Right. I don't see this being a Chris Jones situation. You never know, but this is not something you want hanging over your whole offseason. So when you really look at the money here, yeah, $25 million a year seems to be very reasonable. Now, Brian Burns, we're told, turned down a deal for wanting more than $30 million a season. Now, obviously, the Panthers were not going to. No team would do that. Good player, by the way, and younger than Haason. To me, he's around 26, 27 million a year based on these contracts that we just read. There are others that got 20 to 23 million, but this is kind of the line of demarcation here. Brian Burns is an edge rusher, younger, explosive, good story. Now, he was obviously drafted by Carolina, where Reddick was not. Haason was drafted by the Cardinals. They didn't use him right. We've talked about that many times since he came over to Philly. But you had said something, I remember it, when he signed here, we both agreed, and he had a different agent then. He's actually changed agents to CAA. We said that this deal is going to have to be redone after 2 years if he plays well.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2 years, he's played well. I get it. He wasn't as good as last year. As 21 in 22, he was phenomenal. You could say he was one of the top pass rushers in the National Football League. Last year, everyone was down. It's one thing if Reddick was down, everyone was playing at the elite level or very high level. Then you could say, okay, well, Reddick's a problem. He's regressed. Not true. The whole scheme was bad. Everything dropped off. And the staff, most of the guys are not going to be back on defense in terms of the coaching staff because of it. So let's be real here.
Yeah.
To sum this up, I hear what you're saying about he doesn't have much leverage, but he'll get the leverage if 5 or 6 teams are available, want him, and they're willing to. Now, the other thing is what we need to say here before we move on is what would the Eagles want?
That's a big part of it.
Yeah,
big part of it.
That's even if Son and his agent Torrey Danny find a half a dozen teams, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of teams interested. High character guy, very durable, very productive. There's not much. It's like I don't know what you could criticize with Haason other than maybe he wasn't as good as the year before, which is true. But super character guy, great for the community, productive. It's exactly what you want, and he's got plenty left in him. At least through, I would say, minimum of 2, if not 3 years of really good production.
Yeah.
So to move it forward, what's the asking price for the Eagles? That they'll have to set. That'll be interesting.
The one last resort I could see happening, Adam, because we've seen this before, is I think you make a great point. He could find a good deal that he finds right, but then that team is not, because that team has to pay him. They don't want to give the Eagles like anything higher than a 5th or a 6th. And why would the Eagles do that when they still control him for a year? So it may not work out. And a lot of times it doesn't. It works out either one way or the other. So it may not work out. And I could see a situation where Haason's like, all right, well, you're not going to trade me. You're not going to give me what I want. I'll see you like September 1st, or how like that last day you can to report. And the Eagles could probably work out a 1-year deal with him. We'll say like, all right, we'll bump your salary for a year. We're not going to go past that because we can't meet. And then we can build some incentives into it. If you win the Super Bowl, if we get to the NFC Championship, if you get 16 sacks, you get an extra $1 million so that it can get to a number that Haason feels better with, and the Eagles are only have to pay it for 1 year. They got a lot of cap. They want to be aggressive. They'll have a lot of cap, not issues, but they got a lot of things to work out over the next 2 or 3 years. And if they don't want to get into bed 3 years with Haason Reddick again because of his age, then at least they can do is make something meet there with incentives for 1 year. We've seen that with other players before where they took 1-year deals before entering free agency. So,
yeah. Speaking of that, they gave the Chiefs put in $6.75 million in incentives in his contract. That's what you're talking about. But I don't see now if the Eagles say they're, let's say, for instance, there's a ton of interest, which I would expect there to be a lot, and they're not getting what they want. Let's say they're asking for a 1 or 2, which they should. Guy's a premium pass rusher, very durable. Now the issue for him is he's more of a 34 outside linebacker. He's a guy you're not going to play with he's not going to be a good fit for a 43. He's just not. You want him standing up. So he's not for every scheme. But the bottom line is, if there's enough interest in him, and it goes as you say, like the Eagles don't get what they want, that's where the incentives come in. I could certainly see that. Now I'm going to give you a note here. I remember talking to the Raiders when they traded Mack. This is a factor. When you make trades like the mega trade, like when you trade some of your best players, you do not want to trade him to a team that you think could be very good. The Bears were bad before they traded before they got him in 2018. Talking to the Raiders, and they did not expect the Bears to be a playoff team. Who the hell knew? They didn't think so. So 100%. And that was one of the reasons why it was Gruden's call over Reggie McKenzie. He made the call on that one. Reggie had to do it, and I know Reggie lamented it. But the bottom line is, that's part of this. You don't want to. You'd love it if you're going to trade him to a team is going to be bad, like the Cardinals. Again, I know he's not going back there, but you know what I mean. Someone is probably going to be pretty bad.
Yeah, Yeah.
You get a good
All right.
pick.
All right. Let me ask you. We're going to get into other contracts as well in a second. First, I want to remind everybody that if you have resolved to save money this year or eat better or stress less, that's what everybody's New Year's resolutions are, right? That HelloFresh is here to help you do all three. So say hello to your most delicious year yet with fresh ingredients and chef-crafted recipes at a price you're going to love, delivered right to your door. So you've actually resolved to sit down and eat dinner around the table. What do you do about those nights when your schedule is jam-packed? You turn to HelloFresh's lineup of quick and easy meals, and that includes their 15-minute recipes designed to help minimize mealtime stress. That's my kind of meal. Every time we eat something from HelloFresh, whether it's quick and easy or one of their standard meals, we're blown away by the freshness, the taste, and the overall quality. We've tried so many great options, and honestly, we keep coming back for more, whether it's chicken, steak, vegetarian, stir fry, whatever, seafood. They got great stuff. And right now, if you go to HelloFresh.com/Eagles free and use the promo code Eagles free, you'll get free breakfast for life. That's one breakfast item per box while your subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/Eagles free. It's all one word, lowercase EAGLESFREE, and use the code Eagles free. Act now for America's #1 meal kit. All right, so the Eagles have other guys, Adam, right? That contracts are going to be, and I think this is why they're playing this game right now. They've got a puzzle here. Haason Reddick might be one piece of it, but they have other pieces that they have to be concerned about in making everything work.
Yeah. So, okay. We mentioned that this Reddick thing could be potentially be an issue when they did the deal because it was undervalued, and here we are. So now Josh Sweat got a very fair deal when he did it because Josh Sweat, we know he's overcome physically. It's been an incredible story of development. Obviously, kudos to him and kudos to the Eagles for taking a risk, and it's been a home run. But he dropped off. I mean, he dropped off
Big time.
whether it's the Inside the Tape show with Cosell and Harbor, they talked about it. He just didn't look right. He looked different. We checked into it. He's healthy. There's nothing wrong with that leg that was a major issue with him in high school. Now, we had another team tell us he looked like he was dragging it, but we know he's dragged it before and he's been very good.
Yes.
So, it's certainly debatable, but with Sweat's contract coming up here, folks, this is the last year of this extension. And this is now, if I'm Josh, I probably would want more money. But if you're the Eagles, he's not coming off of a great year. The tape shows it. I'm glad you brought him up. This is not going to be easy now to figure out what to do with his contract. He's still a young guy. Through everything he's been through physically, he's not old. That's the thing with him. So I'm interested to see. He's actually only 27, turns 28. Actually, only turns just 27 in March, I think. So let's see what happens here. Eagles don't need to do anything here because quite frankly, he doesn't have, you're right, bringing up the leverage issue. What leverage does he have? He's not coming off for a great year.
No, he's not. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles did not do anything. I mean, I don't think Josh Sweat certainly is going to hold out, and the Eagles have a year. It would have made sense if it was coming off a great year, Adam, to your point, to get an extension now, try to make it team friendly, and listen, if they know that there was no discomfort, then it's not bothering him. It's just, that's how he rushes, and they think that.
Sure.
If they think that they can go back to their ways of preserving him a little more, not playing him as many snaps, then maybe they can give him a 3-year deal that's structured like 2, because he's going to have to be a part of their rotation anyway. But you got to worry about him, like if he just completely is falling off the face of the earth, then that wouldn't be good business. So it might be something that maybe they work on in the middle of the year when they're convinced that he's still a really good situational player for them.
Well, here's the thing. We know how talented he is. He's got versatility. He can play with his hand down and up. Long, really excellent run defender, but he disappeared. That's what the tape showed.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Where do you go? I mean, it's not a talent issue. Okay, we could blame Sean Desai, all we want here, but everyone dropped off. Yeah, they were way more productive the first half, and it collapsed, particularly after the coordinator change.
No.
But here's the other thing is, remember, before that, they took away Desai's third down responsibility. So, see, this is what makes it so tough. The tape didn't show that. Like, I remember we would ask Greg. We flat out asked Greg Cosell on our pregame show, "What is wrong with Sweat?" He goes, "I can't quite put my finger on it." I
Yeah.
mean, so it's not. That's the problem with this thing. It's not like, again, we had a team tell us that they think, because they're not as familiar as the Eagles are with Sweat, but they felt like in their tape study and doing pro advance that Sweat didn't look like he did last year. Okay,
Yeah.
but he's healthy. He didn't miss any time. So I don't know. This is a tough deal here, folks. They don't have the luxury of having all these edge pass rushers. If they trade Reddick, Sweat's on the roster no matter what. Where are they going here? Again, Nolan Smith, as we said earlier, didn't really show much. They don't have anybody else. Patrick Johnson's special teams only. I don't know where else they're going to go here.
No, and even if they took a edge rusher in the first round, you just can't guarantee. They're not picking very high, right?
Right.
You can't
22.
guarantee that guy is going to come in and just be what you need him to be. You need
Yeah.
a good, experienced veteran pass rusher here. So we'll see what they do. The last thing on Sweat is, to me, he's always been a speed to power guy, a very impressive speed to power guy. And I thought by the end of the year, just watching him on tape, that it's not that the power was gone, but he used to be a guy who would throw himself into the chest of a tackle, knock that guy back. And I thought when I watch him, I see him sort of just throwing his body into the tackle, but not moving that tackle back the way he used to be. And I don't know, maybe just got tired, played a lot of snaps, wore down. Everybody sort of went into a malaise in the second half of the year, but it was an alarming one. I don't want to dismiss that. That was not good for the Eagles, and we'll see what happens here with him in the offseason. Let's talk about the secondary, because there are a lot of contracts here that you look at and you wonder about the fate of players. I think James Bradbury is the first guy that, I mean, he just signed an extension last offseason. I don't know how you bring him back, but it's a lot of financial hit to take. You can post June 1 it to make it less of a burden at him, but I do wonder if under Vic Fangio, are they going to let him watch the tape and say no, yes? Do they maybe move him to safety? He has
I
the
don't
body type, I think, to be
think
able to
so.
do it.
Yeah, we actually asked Greg that, and he didn't think it. I'll ask him again next time we have him on. It didn't sound like he was real big on him moving to safety. So here's the problem. Whether he's on the roster, if they cut him, they owe him 10.8 million, fully guaranteed. That's the option bonus plus the base salary. And then you got the dead cap. Yes, you could post June 1 it to alleviate some of the issue. This is this scheme that the True Fangio, because Vic is running it, is a very, very good fit for Bradbury. That's how he revived his career in 22 under Gannon. Gannon ran his version of it, but he dropped off and it was so bad. I sometimes you just got to eat the money. It would be a miracle if someone traded for him, because remember, if now here's another way they can do it. Let's say they find a team that wants him, right? That team's and we know this happens a lot, more than you think. Like that team can say, okay, we'll take him, but you're gonna eat a lot of the money. We'll pay him a veteran minimum salary. You're gonna pay him the 8 mil. We'll give you a 6th-round pick, and we'll make it conditional to a 5th if he plays a certain amount of stats. But you're gonna pay a lot of his salary. We're not gonna pay it.
Mm-hmm.
That I could see happening. That's the best case scenario. I'd be shocked if anyone take that contract as is. You got to be kidding me. 10.85 million. Get out of here.
No one's taking that. Like,
Yeah.
you just hit it. I agree with you. I think there's a possibility he could be traded into a defense where they think they might play a style more conducive to off coverage or Tampa 2, and they just need a corner, kind of like Steven Nelson, right? He actually wound up playing fairly decently for the Texans when it looked like he was just done here with the Eagles, right? I mean, I think that's a pretty good comp. But again, like, if someone's going to take that, they're not paying him that money. But I think the Eagles will be all right. They'll pay it. But if you can get some kind of draft compensation in return, probably not the worst thing in the world. But I do feel like Steven Nelson's a decent comp because he wound up not being bad in Houston. I think everybody thought when he left. Everybody thought when he left here that this guy was cooked and done, and he wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. He was
serviceable.
Okay.
It was serviceable,
Yeah.
right? But
Right.
to me, Bradbury, based on the way he played, is a $5 million player. He certainly wasn't after 22 when he was second team All Pro, but it is what it is, and you have what you have. Funny, Steven Nelson sort of held out, and he got a little bit extra money. They kind of boosted his contract for 23. He's actually a free agent again, Steven
Hmm.
Nelson, ironically.
Yeah. Well, credit to him. He's hung on there. Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, that's Bradbury. Then I know people think there's no way that they'll bring Avonte Maddox back, and I get that sentiment because of his major injury history, and you just feel so bad for him. But you can't help the club in the tub, and now Avonte is signed through one more season. His cap number is a unattainable 10.059 million. Obviously, he can't come back with that number.
No.
And his cash is his base salary is 6.85 million. Now, here's the question: Zach McPherson's coming off what, a torn Achilles?
Yeah.
Taken.
Yep.
So they don't have a nickel on the roster. If they cut or trade Maddox, no, Ricks cannot be the full-time slot. That was a nice story. He did what he could. He's not a natural slot. We know that.
Can I interject for 1 second? Because
You have
I
one?
don't want to forget, because we get reminded this. Isaiah Rodgers is now on as of today, right? He's on the 53 now, or he has to get
He's to apply.
he has to apply and get reinstated and all that.
Well, he could
I
be.
thought it was just a 1-year suspension.
Yeah, but no, he has to apply. Yeah, it's he has to apply for it. I can't imagine he wouldn't get cleared. He wouldn't be able to be reinstated. But here's the thing with Isaiah Rodgers: you can't just assume he's going to stay on the straight and narrow here. You just can't. You have to be careful. I get it. He's talented. He was going to be their nickel with the Colts. You just can't assume. He's a pretty talented kid. There were some talked to people at who covered Isaiah Rodgers at UMass. There was some baggage with him. There was just a gambling issue that he had in the NFL. There were some concerns with doing everything the right way, but you would think he'd be humbled by now. Yeah, now is he in the mix for it? Sure. But you can't just assume, and plus he hasn't played football for a year, that the nickel's an extremely important position. These guys play at least 70% of the time. So I hear you. It's fair. No, I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot. But is he the answer? They don't know that.
No, you can't. I just want to make sure that we mention him as
good. No, thank you. No, I'm glad you brought. I'm an idiot. I forgot. So that's
all. No, I mean it's easily to forget. Guys,
he's in there. No,
that's
he's
another
in there.
thing, by the way. He hasn't played in over a year.
That's my point. Right. That's what I just said. If he doesn't play, okay. If he doesn't play, I mean, if he doesn't look right, you don't know that. When these guys, people don't know that he's going to look right. I mean, I know people have mentioned to us on our YouTube channel, on our comments, that don't forget about him. And I get that, but you can't depend on him.
Agree.
Yeah. 100%. So that's where that's it. That's where
just like right now with Zach McPherson coming off an Achilles. That's tough too. It's not like he's even proved himself. So
yeah,
they got a lot of question marks there. They got a lot of questions. All right. One more guy that we're going to get into. Then I got a question for you to wrap it all up. Is the safety Byard. Now, Vic Fangio's defense requires a smart experience. Usually, he'd like to have a safety. Safeties are important in Vic Fangio's defense. And I think Byard could probably function better in a defense that has an identity and he knows and what to do and is not lost like last year. But what I run into, Adam, is that there's no question the Eagles need to get younger and more dynamic in their secondary. But they're going to bring back Slay. If they don't bring back Bradbury, okay, you can get younger there. But your safeties, like if you bring back Byard, then you've still got, that's 2/4 of your safety or 2/5 that have some age to it. And I don't know if you're getting more younger and dynamic that way. But if you don't bring back Byard, like what are you looking at as far as we're talking about Sidney Brown coming off an injury, Reid Blankenship, who's a number 3. You figure they'll draft the guy, but you can't really bank on that. Like that, I almost feel like you almost have to try to make it work. Again, obviously they're not going to pay Kevin Byard what that money is on his deal, right? But I don't think anybody in the league is. So maybe you can, find a way to bring him back at a much better price if you want to. Otherwise, then you're going to have to bring in another safety.
All right, 2 things here. So Blankenship will be starting week 1 unless something crazy happens. I know you said he best off. Would he be best off as a 3? Yes. But Sidney Brown tore his ACL. It's going to be hugging up right to the start of the season, whether it be available or not. Even if he is, who knows what he'll look like. They don't have any. They only have 3 guys under contract: Byard, who you mentioned, Blankenship, who you mentioned, and Sidney Brown. So they need to add 2 pieces. Now let's get to Byard's contract, which is the show's about. This is the final year of his deal. Boy, they have a lot of guys who are done after 24. This is crazy. We'll do our deep dive in all the contracts in like May or June. But this one, no guaranteed money. His base salary is $9.3 million. He's got a $4 million roster bonus due on March 17th, which they can't pay that because they have to decline it. Because the total cash with his per game roster bonus is just under 14 million. I'm sorry, he turns 31. No offense, Kevin. I don't see you getting that. Now, on your point, certainly they could work out something that maybe it's 6 million with upside to 10 million, but 14 million is a lot of money, man. You can't be paying that.
Yeah, and no one is. Nobody
Yeah.
is. That's the thing
Yeah.
that the Eagles know. It's not like they're worried. Like, oh man, like we cut this guy, someone else is going to sign him for. So they have an opportunity with him being on the roster now to have that first conversation with him as an in-house guy. I mean, it could be happening right at the set. Who knows? Like we need you back. We need a veteran. We got a way better defensive structure. We got a way better defensive coaching staff, and we need someone who can be sort of the captain or the brains of our back end. That could be you, but we don't have 14 million for you. Nobody else does either. Let's talk about what we can do here to make it work. I'm sure if he's a smart guy, his agent's a smart guy, maybe something can get worked out there.
All right, one thing on Byard, and people have to understand, he had the Tennessee defense, obviously, he played in for the trade. Then he had the Desai scheme. Okay. Then Patricia foolishly changed his scheme. He wanted to do a lot of his concepts. So think about it. He had to learn 3 defenses. No, of course he's not going to play at the elite level. Like, I'm not taking a side. I just want people, our job is to give you the facts. We don't like to make blanket statements because people don't learn anything. We try not to do it. We try our best not to do it because we're here to help you learn. That's why he didn't play as well. Okay. That's what someone who would know said it was just too much to ask him to do that. And now it's not like when they made the trade, they knew that they were going to completely change the scheme. Patricia shouldn't have done that. It wasn't fair to these players. It wasn't fair to, by the way, it wasn't fair to Patricia's coaching staff that he inherited. The whole thing was an absolute disaster.
Yep.
So let's see what happens. Now, on your point, the Eagles have no recourse here. So if they could go ahead and cut Byard to try to trade him, Blankenship is an average starter at best. It's been a good story development as undrafted free agent, but he's not, I think we know he's not as good as some people thought he would be after what he did in year 1. Brown's coming off 20 ACL. Justin Evans is up. And he's always been hurt. The only guys that they have who are signed to futures contracts, Tristan McCullum, who's a practice squad guy. Mekhi Garner could play corner or safety. That's it, folks. They don't have anyone else. So I'm with you here. I would look to bring Byard back at a inexpensive deal, lowers cap number, lowers cash, figure it out, and work with the guys from Philly. This would be a good story if you get in his career as an Eagle, but they got a lot of work to do in the secondary, man. This back end is it's bad, man. They got a lot of work to do.
It is. I want to close it off with one more point first. I want to remind everybody, losing stinks, but you know what also stinks is trying to find good tickets online, and that's why you need Game Time. It's the fast, easy way to buy tickets for sporting events, concerts, and theater shows near you. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, and right now, right this second, on the Game Time app, you're 2 taps away from tickets to any of the local sports teams, pro, college, whatever you want, comedy acts, concerts, anything you want to see. The best part is Game Time offers event cancellation protection and job loss protection. Game Time's the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. They're all in prices, show you the total up front, and you can see the view from your seat. You know exactly what to expect at checkout. Game Time is obsessed with helping you save money. Their zone deals let you pick the section, while Game Time picks the seats, so you get the best savings. And then they've got the Game Time guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time credits you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use code BIRDS, B-I-R-D-S, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use the redeem code BIRDS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, are we going to do offensive contracts next one, or are we going to, because we did really defensive questions.
Yes.
Okay.
Here's why. Because the NFL Network report broke Sunday morning or something. But you know what? Let's just do defense. I mean, why switch off? Keep them with the defensive players?
Sure.
Well,
no, only because there's a name that pops into my head. But maybe if we're going to just talk about the same thing about offensive players, I'll save that name and we'll get into it on the next podcast.
I'll just give you a hint. The decisions they'll have to make is whether, because I know people are asking us, should they extend Devontae? They don't have to, but they can. And Landon Dickerson. And then the Kelsey thing is funny. It's interesting because I've known this for a while, and I know one of the media reporters put it out there. Kelsey's people are talking to Jason's people are talking to TV networks. I could tell you as a fact that doesn't mean he's going to retire. It's there when he retires. Do I think he's going to retire? Yes. Is it a guarantee? No. It's someone who knows him very well said to me, he could wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, hell with it. I want to. I feel good right now. I want to play. So you can't say for sure he's retiring. How many times have we said over the 4 years, talking to both sides, they both felt Jason would retire and he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully for the Eagles, he didn't.
Oh yeah, I know. Seriously,
right.
I think
So,
is it WIP? Our friends at WIP, they're doing like a
and
they're
they know
doing a
him too.
show soon where they're all gonna
Yeah.
have callers like call in and lobby Jason Kelce to stay.
Oh, is that right?
Another year. It's like
by the
Kelce
way,
Day.
one more thing I have to mention this before we get out of here, because this is like the highlight of my week, because I grew up here in Philly, and for people probably in their late 40s, early 50s, especially if you're in your 50s. So one of my favorite players, Eagle players growing up, was Charlie Young. Now, he was a tight end. Maybe two people listening know this. Do you know who the Eagles had him and who he got traded for?
What
Straight
year
up.
was this?
It was 1977.
Oh my God. When I was 1, I do
No,
not remember.
but it's a friend of ours.
Vince Papale?
Well, close. I saw Vince this past week.
77.
Ron Jaworski.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Straight. Now, here's the great story here. And Charlie said that. I know Jaws is a free agent because Jaws told me, but Charlie, what a great guy, by the way. He was freaking awesome. I don't know. We talked for. He's a great dude. So he said, and I don't have any reason to doubt him. He would know that both were free agents. Now, back then, they didn't have rules that could say, like, for some reason, both were traded for each other. The transaction should not have happened, but both were free agents. I wouldn't have known that Charlie was. Jaws told me years ago. So it broke my heart because Charlie was like the Shannon Sharp of his day. If you look up the numbers, you go, you don't understand. The guy was super athletic and a seam guy. He also won a ring. He also played with Joe Montana. The Niners won a ring with him.
That helps.
Yeah, but he was just a great story and a great guy, and I loved meeting him and made my week. I had no idea it was him.
Oh wow!
And yeah, it was super cool. No, because he came up to me. He said my name. I'm like, there's no way this guy knows me. And we just started talking, and he told such great stories, and was just really the highlight of my week. I saw Jordan Mailata and I got a chance to talk, catch up. It was great to see him. Bo Allen, Brady McLeod looks awesome, doing well, rehabbing his biceps injury. But I got to tell you, someone who grew up in this area, and folks, again, if you're over 50, you probably remember Charlie Young if you're a little kid like I was. But it was it was just super cool because one of your heroes growing up was Charlie Young. Yeah, I didn't want to embarrass him by saying it, but he kind of was. Because it was it was John Reeves, who I met, who played for the Tampa Bay Bandits. Charlie Young, Mike Barola and I talked through LinkedIn, believe it or not. It was number 10. He was before Jaws. Obviously, Jaws, getting to know Jaws, you and I have over the years. So pretty cool.
No, that is really cool. Awesome stuff. All right. So one of those names I was thinking about to talk about on offense contractually,
yes,
you did not mention. So as we say in this great business, that's a great tease to our next podcast, which will drop Wednesday morning. And I look forward to doing that. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds. Be sure to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at phlsportsnation.com and on Twitter at phlsportsnation.